Hey guys! Alright, so we're going to start our first video notes for our cyber algebra class, and that is on functions and relations. So we have a set of vocab, alright, to start these set of notes, and I already have them written out. Feel free to pause so that you can follow along and get these typed out as well, okay? So the first definition we have here is a relation, and what a relation is just simply a set of ordered pairs, okay? So it's a set of ordered pairs. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an example of what a relation is, and then we're going to use this throughout our next two terms, okay? So in this example section, let's go ahead and we're going to draw these curly braces. They're like squiggles, all right? So it looks like that, these curly braces. And I'm going to go ahead and write a set of ordered pairs. So inside parentheses, I'm going to do 2, 4. All right, I'm going to do -1, 8. I'm going to do 5, 9. And then I'm going to do another, let's do 2, 6. And then I'm going to go ahead and close that set of curly braces. And this is an example of a relation, all right? It's just a set of ordered pairs, okay? So we're going to now dissect that relation into two other terms, all right, called the domain and the range. And these are very simple, all right? So what a domain is, it's just simply the x values of a relation, all right? It's just the x values, okay? So other words for domains is input or independent variable, but typically we're just going to think about it as our x values, okay? So remember when we're talking about ordered pairs, remember that our x values are first and our y values are second. So I'm going to use this example here, all right? And I'm going to highlight all my x values. So I'm going to highlight 2, I'm going to highlight -1, I'm going to highlight 5, and I'm going to highlight 2, okay? And there's a rule whenever you are listing out your domain, and I'm going to call it YOLO. And what that stands for is you only list once, all right? So if there's duplicates in the same domain, you're only going to list, all right, those numbers one time, okay? So for example, if I was listing out this domain, I would list out those numbers. So I'd list out 2, I would list out a -1, and I would list out a 5. And now when I get to my last number in my domain, I have another 2, but because I only list it one time, I'm going to close that curly brace, and then 2, -1, and 5 are my domain. All right, let's talk about the range now. So the range is going to be quite similar, all right? The range is now just the y values of the relation. And again, you might see it in terms of like the output or the dependent variable, all right? But simply, it's just the y values of a relation. So again, if I go back to my original relation, I'm going to highlight my y values. So my second number's in there. So 4, 8, 9, and 6. And for my range, I'm just simply going to list them. So I'm going to do 4, 8, 9, 6. Close it up. And that's your domain and range. So let's practice this, all right? So example 1, exactly just like what we did, we're going to find the domain and the range of that relation, okay? So going through, I'm going to highlight my x values. So I'm going to highlight a -1, a -3, a 6, a 2, a 0, and then another 6, okay? So listing out that domain, I'm just going to list out my x values, but if I have 2 of the same, remember I only list out one time. So I'm going to do -1, I'm going to do -3, I'm going to do 6, 2, 0, and then I get to that last 6, and then I don't write it because I already have one. Okay? Now let's go ahead and list out the domain. So I'm going to list out my y values. So I have 3, -5, 2, -2, -1, and then another -2. Okay, so one more time, we're just going to list out our y values, and we only list them out one time. All right, so I'm going to list out 3, -5, 2, negative 2, negative 1. And because I already have another negative 2 written down, I'm going to close that up, and that's my range. Okay, so in example 2, it says find the domain and the range. This time we have the points. So the easiest way to do this is to list out the points first and then write out the x values and write out the y values, all right? So I'm going to go in order from the letters. So I'm going to start here at A, and I'm going to write out the point right beside it, which is that red point. And so that ordered pair is going to be, I'm going to go over 5, and I'm going to go up 4. So I'm going to have 5, 4 as one of my points. Oopsie. So 5, 4. All right, I'm going to go down to B now. All right, so B is right here. So I'm going to go over 6 and down negative 1. Okay. All right, going over to C now. All right, I'm going to go over 1, down 3. So 1, negative 3. Let's go over to D. All right, so I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So negative 5, down negative 1. All right, and then the last one is I'm going to go over 2, but up 6. So negative 2, 6. So those are my ordered pairs. And so I'm now going to list out the domain, and I'm going to list out the range. All right, so again, the domain is just all my x values. And so writing it this way is actually nice because I'm just going to look straight down that column, and those are going to be all my x values. So I'm going to do 5, 6, 1, negative 5, and then negative 2 as my domain. And then my range, I'm going to just go ahead and list this column right here. So I'm going to list 4, negative 1, 3, but then I have another negative 1 and I'm not going to list it, and then 6. All right, so our last question in here, all right, it says, using the list of ordered pairs below, shade in the ordered pairs that would create a domain of 6, 2, 0, 1, and 9. So this one's pretty simple in the fact that we have to remember that the domain are our x values. So all we're looking for are ordered pairs that have these x values, okay? And then we're just going to shade them in. So I'm going to look to see which ordered pairs have an x value of 6. And I found one right here, and I'm going to shade that in. I'm going to now find which ones have an x value of 2. So I found this one right here. And remember, we can have more than one that has that same x value. So we're going to highlight both 2, 4 and 2, 1. Now I need to find the one that has an x value of 0, which is the one right beside it. So 0, 5 is another one. We have 1, so we have 1, 2. And then our last one is 9, 5. So I'm going to pause here and come back, and then we'll do representing relations, and then we have a little bit more.